back with you on the second leg of the India development debate. The Apex Court today quashed a batch of petitions demanding an independent inquiry into the death of CBI Judge Brijgopal Harkishan Loya, who was presiding over the CBI court in the Sohrabuddin Sheikh encounter case. The top court called the petitions a frontal attack on the judiciary and observed that there was no reason to disbelieve the testimony of judicial officers, ruling out any foul play whatsoever.
The ruling from the Supreme Court immediately sparked a political war with the BJP, alleging that Rahul Gandhi was the invisible hand behind the petition seeking a probe. The Congress called it a sad day for the judiciary and questioned the verdict. The big political face-off over the Supreme Court ruling in the Judge Loya case is our second debate tonight on the India development debate. And it is indeed a pleasure to have this wonderful political panel joining us on the show this evening. Lalin Kohli, spokesperson of the BJP, Pawan Khera, spokesperson of the Congress, and Yogendra Yadav, founder and national president, Swaraj India political party. Gentlemen, thank you for taking time out and joining us on ET Now, the India development debate. Mr. Khera, if I may start with you, not only has the Supreme Court quashed these a batch of PILs, it has called it a frontal assault on the judiciary. By demanding an independent probe now, are you essentially questioning the testimony of 4 judges who have now testified that there was no foul play?
No. On the contrary, what was the demand of all the petitioners? What was the demand of the family members of late Judge Loya? Investigation. Demanding investigation is not a crime. It's the right of anybody who's affected by an accident, by an incident. And this is a very, very high profile case. It is a case involving the president of the BJP, the national president of a national party. And there are several questions that need investigation. The Supreme Court had transferred the case of Tulsiram Prajapati and Sohrabuddin from Gujarat to Bombay with the clear orders that there should be one judge investigating from the beginning to the end. What happened to that order? That's a question which needs an answer. That order was thrown to the dustbin in June of 2014. Justice Utpat had ordered that Amit Shah should be present in the court. Justice Utpat gets transferred and Judge Loya is brought in. Judge Loya's family comes out and says that Judge Loya was offered 100 crore rupees of bribe and a flat in Mumbai to decide this case in favor of Mr. Amit Shah. There is no record of Judge Loya having travelled to Nagpur or having stayed in Nagpur. Why was his security withdrawn just few days, 4 or 5 days before he so-called travelled to Nagpur? Why was the security withdrawn? The post-mortem report, the various medical opinions contradict each other. Today, his sister Anuradha Bayani, look at her remark, look at her angst, her pain in the remark that अब क्या पूछें, किससे बात करें, अब बात करने को रह ही क्या गया? These are her words, his real sister.
Right.
So, right. Supreme Court is supreme.
Mr. Khera, you made
not because it is always right. Supreme Court is right because it is supreme.
Okay.
This is the fundamental of law.
All right, Mr. Khera, you made your opening comments there, and Lalin Kohli, I'm going to get you to respond to that. The Congress party is not just saying that can a statement of some judges made in an administrative inquiry before police officer be the sole yardstick for arriving at a conclusion. What they're also saying is the demand was for an investigation. Now, how are you going to respond to that?
How am I going to respond? Why should I respond? And who am I to respond? The Honorable Supreme Court has come out with a judgment. And that judgment has some castigating comments against all these motivated campaigns that are running in the name of PILs, from public interest litigation to a political or a personal interest litigation. So why should I try to justify it? Read the judgment, read para 47, 72, 74, 75, 76. Mr. Prashant Bhushan personally named, Indra Jaisingh personally named, Dushyant Dave personally named, and all of them to somehow tarnish the image of the judiciary. But of course, now we know that 24 Janpath is the new super Supreme Court of this country, because obviously nothing works. The Bombay High Court judges have no value. The administrative side looking at it has no value. The colleagues of Justice Loya have no value. The investigation done by them has no value. The fact that he stayed there, their statements corroborated with everything else has no value, and the Supreme Court has no value. just because they are driven to manufacture a case somehow against Amit Shahji. That's all. So therefore, this is the new Cambridge Analytica driven Congress party. Manufacture a story, then say that this is it, then move in a motivated campaign into the courts, try to intimidate the courts, and it takes mettle of the judges of what we have seen today, 3 of them, the Chief, Justice Chandrachud, Justice Khanvilkar, 3 of them to say that this amounts to criminal contempt, but we are not exercising it so that people do not believe that we are imposing ourselves on it. We will let the bar decide. I think they have spoken from a high moral stage. Their questions raised on them also.
Okay.
Yet they have risen to that. What is the evidence? A manufactured evidence.
I take that point.
As simple as that.
I take that point.
Last point that I want to make.
Sure.
My last point which I wish to make is that there has to be a rest to it. The Congress as a political party is in its rights to want to oppose everyone and anyone in the BJP. Certainly. But they have to understand in a democracy they have the full mandate to go out there and fight it out in the field where people are there, voters are there, and win it and come back to government. But let's not try to create a new thing by trying to fight it out in courts through manufactured this, and then when a judgment comes, run down the court that gives the judgment.
Okay, I'll come to you, Pawan Khera, but Yogendra Yadav, now that the Supreme Court has ruled and has, considered the facts that have been presented, I'm sure, by both the parties, now that the Supreme Court has ruled, is it only fair to put a full stop to the matter? Because what we're seeing is even now, various sections are feeling that, there's still a basis, this whole clamor for an independent probe is still very much there. Now that the top court of the country, after weighing in the case, has ruled against a probe, should the matter not be put to rest?
Normally, it should be. Normally, I've always argued that on matters of facts, on many other things, there has to be a point where you say, okay, this is where it concludes, and now let everyone rest. Normally, Supreme Court should be telling us how to argue rather than us telling the Supreme Court how things should be argued. Supreme Court should be supreme. But please remember, Supreme Court derives its power, authority, legitimacy not only from the letter of the law, but by exercising a moral authority, by seen to be not only doing justice, but by seen to be doing justice, by seen by the entire society to be people who are above these considerations, who can only be fair and nothing can touch them. Today happens to be one such case where this was tested. I remember 1976, Jabalpur High Court, Jabalpur judgment, the famous judgment of the Supreme Court, which was given by legal luminaries, Justice Bhagwati, Justice Chandrachud, the other Chandrachud, not this one, great judges. They gave a judgment that yes, under emergency, right to life ceases to exist. And on that day, I can imagine someone from Congress, a smart vakil like Nalin Kohli, would have jumped and said, the Supreme Court has spoken, how can you say anything now? My friend, history gave a very different judgment. Justice Chandrachud apologized. Justice Bhagwati apologized. They apologized to the nation for what they had done because they had brought judiciary down. I do not know what the history's judgment will be 15 years from now, 20 years from now. But today was one such occasion when the Supreme Court of India could have said, we not only do justice, we are seen to be just. If you ask me, was Justice Loya murdered? No, I don't have an evidence. I don't believe so. I don't know. But if you ask me, should this not have been investigated? The question was not whether Justice Loya was murdered or not. The question was not whether Mr. X or Y should be punished or not. The question was, here is an issue which had such wide public resonance. Should it not have been laid to rest with independent inquiry? And if judges are to be trusted, as Mr. Nalin Kohli says with a lot of emphasis, 4 judges have spoken, my friend, 4 other judges has also spoken. 4 judges of Supreme Court of India had said that this particular case is being given to a wrong bench. What about that?
Okay. No, that's a valid point, and that's exactly the point that I want Nalin Kohli to answer, that if there was nothing untoward, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that there perhaps wasn't, why not have a fair investigation to clear the air? And the point that Yogendra Yadav just made about the 4 judges who, not lying as the Supreme Court says. What about the 4 other judges who held a press conference on the 12th of Feb and questioned the allotment of the case, which was subsequently changed?
Sure.
I mean, those judges weren't lying either, I'm presuming, because judiciary doesn't lie.
That's a point. No, I didn't say the judiciary does not lie. I said it has to cease somewhere. Human beings make everything. But I think the point we need to see here is, okay, let me say, there is a belief that there is something wrong here. Now, let me on this channel give a counter belief. Suppose a set of people tomorrow start a campaign and say, Yogendra Yadav, he's an eminent person in society, is being funded by foreigners to bring down democracy and is there. Should it be investigated? There has to be some cogent reason for an investigation. You don't launch investigations because there is an outcry. That
Honestly, Nalin, I'm saying right away, yes, it should be investigated.
Reason. There must be some evidence that come. Let me just finish. Let me finish, Mr. Yadav. I want to also point out, because as you said, a smart lawyer like me. So the other smart lawyer who happens to be a fellow traveler in the Swaraj India movement, Mr. Prashant Bhushan, there is a whole paragraph dedicated to him in the judgment. I'm sure if you will let me have the pleasure of giving you the pleasure to hear about it, 4 sentences out of para 76. Mr. Prashant Bhushan argued that because the 2 judges, that is the Supreme Court judges, Justice Khanvilkar and Justice Chandrachud, constituting the present bench of the Supreme Court were judges of Bombay High Court, they may choose to recuse. Look at the irony. This petition was first filed in Mumbai. So therefore, every judge of Mumbai High Court should have recused. This way couldn't have been heard in Mumbai because they were saying that judges who are from Mumbai should recuse because there's a question of fairness to it. Later in para 76 says, serious attacks have been made on the credibility of the 2 judges of the Bombay High Court. The conduct of the petitioners and the interveners scandalizes the process of court and prima facie constitutes criminal contempt. The judiciary must perform and continue to perform its duty even if it is not palatable to some. The credibility of the judicial process is based on its moral authority. These are the judges speaking. They don't need us to tell them. It is with that firm belief that we have not invoked the jurisdiction of contempt, that we will function from our moral authority.
Okay.
So therefore, asking questions in a democracy is not incorrect. But to manufacture something for a political intent, then give it the cloak of a public intent, that I think, and then run down anyone who doesn't succumb to that pressure.
Okay.
That to say is the face of democracy or the might of democracy. Sorry.
Okay.
That's not in my opinion.
Pawan Khera, you need to come in there because that's a direct charge that Nalin Kohli has made, and all day we've seen a slew of BJP ministers saying that this has been manufactured for political reasons. BJP has alleged that Rahul Gandhi was the invisible hand behind the petition seeking an independent probe and has demanded an apology now. I know the Congress wasn't one of the petitioners in this case, even though there were multiple other petitioners. Congress wasn't a petitioner, but yes, it was yet it was politically motivated, is the charge from the BJP.
I want to understand, why is the BJP of all the people running scared of an investigation? It's in the interest of Mr. Amit Shah, it's in the interest of justice, it's in the interest of the BJP's public image that it should face an investigation and come out of it with flying colors. If they have nothing to hide, they should not be worried, they should not be afraid of an investigation. And my friend Nalin Kohli, ask him, they rushed to the Supreme Court seeking a re-inquiry into Bofors. Some of them rushed, including one of their MPs, seeking a re-investigation into Mahatma Gandhi's assassination. So, if somebody is going to the Supreme Court not seeking conviction, but seeking investigation, for God's sake, he or she is not committing a crime. This is a great justice to the people of India who want answers, and the questions are very, very uncomfortable. It's not the questions raised by Congress, the questions raised by Judge Loya's family members even today, not just after Caravan's article came out. So these are the questions that need to be answered. And what on earth is the discrete inquiry, I want to ask? Discrete inquiry? Now these so-called statements recorded, which Mr. Nalin Kohli also quoted, of some judges in front of a police officer, not under section 164. What is the credibility of these statements which are not recorded under 164, I ask? My friend, learned friend Nalin Kohli is a legal luminary. So he should not, at least he should not hoodwink your viewers like this. So these are the questions. Two other deaths.
Let me answer that.
One death, Advocate Khanwalkar.
Okay, okay.
No, one more, sorry. Judge
All
Thomre.
right.
The Judge Thomre was found on a railway track, killed, dead, mysteriously. Advocate Khanwalkar was found dead, mysteriously. No FIR, no inquiry. Why is it that everybody connected to this case, there is a mysterious death and there is no inquiry, no investigation? Why?
All right, all right, all right. Just before I go any further, I want to take this across to Yogendra Yadav, because besides the court, the observation that the Supreme Court made today is also important, and the Supreme Court said that PIL, and I'm quoting, it has become a business to settle political rivalry. It also goes on to say that business rivalry should be resolved in the market, political rivalries in the hall of democracy, and the court's duty is to protect the law. Mr. Yadav, isn't the reference obvious?
I don't know what the reference is to, certainly not to Prashant Bhushan. I just wanted to answer to Nalin Kohli ji. What if someone raises questions about my propriety, about my receiving foreign funds? If someone holds a press conference, shows 4 bits of papers and says this bank account, that number, I would say yes, inquiry should be held. And if I were to be more important than person than I actually happen to be, then all the more reason it should happen. And if I happen to be the ruling party's president, and if there are serious issues involved in that, some cogency, I agree with Nalin Kohli ji, there should be some bit of evidence, I guess, about Karwan's articles. I would agree with you if you say that does not constitute conclusive proof. But if you want to tell me that it does not have even shred of a beginning of having a doubt, you are really stretching it, Nalin ji. I think the real questions here are, who are we trying to address? Let us forget Prashant Bhushan, let history decide. Maybe 20 years later we would find out whether the references to these 3 lawyers make these 3 lawyers great lawyers in the history of India, or the 3 judges become great judges in the history of India. Let history judge these things change a lot. On the question of who are we trying to address, I think for me the most important person is that small session judge who is sitting in some small district of India taking on big people because he or she happens to be honest. That judge has been tracking Justice Loya's case mentally. I could be in his place. What's happening here? For me, Justice Loya's sister is important, not because she happens to be a sister, because she speaks the minds of millions of people. She is not a judge. She does not know the facts. I do not know the facts. But would it not have been much better if the Supreme Court had said, especially since 4 judges of the Supreme Court themselves has cast aspersions about the manner in which this particular case was being handled? Wouldn't it have been better if the court had said, all right, we don't think there is any case here, but just to put everything at rest and in order to assure this country that Supreme Court is supreme in its judgment and honesty and integrity, we ordered this probe and ordered this probe by someone who has, about whose integrity no one in this country can have any doubt.
Fair
Would
enough.
it have been greater for this country?
Okay,
it is precisely in such exceptional cases
Right.
that the moral authority of the Supreme Court is judged, and that I'm afraid has failed today.
Okay, I take that point. Nalin Kohli, come to you to rebut that point, and I'm adding a quick question here, which is that one of the petitioners, the key petitioner, Bombay Lawyers Association, has decided to file a review petition, has emphatically stated that their petition is not politically motivated. So, it's not as if all the people have been politically motivated in this particular case is a question. But yeah, I do want you to respond to the points made there by Yogendra Yadav.
I'm sure Mr. Yadav, and as an eminent person that he is, I'm sure that, at the end of the day, he and his colleagues would have said, we'll certify this is the person we believe is the honest person in this country, above everything. They certified Arvind Kejriwal also. We are suffering the consequences in Delhi ever since of that certification. So therefore, these are all about conjectures. They are all about doubts.
When my friend
Create a
Naveen
doubt and build
falls
an
short of
argument. Why
arguments,
not
he
an
talks of Aam
investigation?
Aadmi Party and
Let me
Arvind
finish, sir.
Kejriwal
Let me
every time.
finish, sir. Let me finish, sir. Let me finish. I know it's a sore point with you. You all have certified him. That's the living example of your certification process. And I remember exactly when the Aam Aadmi Party was coming, eons were spoken about how our process will ensure the finest people.
Let's not bring the Aam Aadmi Party here. Please continue making your point, but don't bring in Aam Aadmi Party here, sir.
No, I'm just telling you.
We don't have
now
a
that you are
representative
getting
here,
into
it's
this,
only
I
fair
must
we do not bring
respond.
them
About
into
the
this
certification
discussion.
process.
If he wants to
So I'm
distract
just
the
simply
debate,
saying-
I'll have to respond.
No, I'm just simply saying it is that
I mean,
same
either you
mindset
allow this
with
distraction, in
certified.
which case I will
It is
respond.
the same
No, this is
mindset
not
Otherwise,
the
let him
Aam
restrict
Aadmi Party
to what he said.
representative is not here. We can't
I'm
let you
sure
make
you may
references there.
respond. You may respond, Yogendraji. Don't get agitated. You are otherwise a very congenial person. So therefore,
Okay,
I'm saying,
carry on, Mr.
with
Kohli,
all
but
due
please don't refer
respect,
to the Aam
this
Aadmi Party. We don't have a
certification
representative here. We
ability
shouldn't be talking
carries
about it.
on to the carries on to the judge.
I can't allow
carries
you to
on to the
distract the
Supreme
debate.
Court. Carries on to everything that is politically not convenient to their ideology. I'm saying they are entitled under the Constitution to hate each one of the persons in the BJP, dislike everybody. But then there is a political field to do so. Don't pretend to try to bring the judiciary. Why not have an what you call inquiry? Why not just go and do an inquiry for what? What is the basic of criminal jurisprudence? You are innocent until proven guilty. And should you put, when there is not a shred of credible information, credible evidence, not a shred of credible evidence on doubt and conjecture, should the whole country just get into investigation mode and investigate everybody? The same thing can then happen to anybody.
All right.
You pick up
All
anybody
right.
and say income tax, I have a doubt about so-and-so walking, take him to jail. Now let's come to the section 144,
Right.
sorry.
Yeah, I guess the same,
CRPC
Mr.
164
Kohli,
section
Mr. Kohli,
that Pawan
Mr.
Bhai was
Kohli.
speaking. Mr. Khera
Right.
was saying,
Right, but
Not a shred
but
of
that
evidence.
But that same logic should be used
Yes.
to. One second, Mr. Kohli, I think you made your point, but the same logic should also be used for people who want to go ahead and probe Mahatma Gandhi.
and about the two other investigations, they were thrown
You have
out.
said we haven't
Nobody
filed a
has gone
petition.
into Mahatma Gandhi's,
Let me
it's
finish.
thrown out.
Let me finish.
There has to be a reason to do so. They were thrown out.
You did. I mean, it was started. You can't deny that. But Pawan Khera, coming to you, you have not filed a petition. You say, but you
so
did
therefore,
make it a political
therefore
issue,
there has to
and
be
you can't
closure.
deny that.
You
The
have
fact that
started
Rahul
something,
Gandhi
raised the
led
doubt, it's
14
gone to
party
the court.
delegation
The
to the
court has
president
finally said no.
demanding an
So there has to be
independent
closure.
probe. One second, Mr. Kohli. I'm speaking to Mr. Khera right now.
Supriya,
Mr.
it's
Khera,
difficult
you
to-
say you haven't
it's
made it
difficult to
political.
comprehend what's
You are
being
not
said
behind this
because-
petition, but you are
Yeah.
the one who led that delegation to the president.
As an opposition party, Supriya, first I don't understand the phrase called politically motivated. I mean, it's a misnomer. We are a political party, a responsible opposition who's been in government for several decades. We know what an opposition should do. If we don't raise questions, we would be failing in our duty as an opposition. And of course, as a political party, we need to raise an issue from political platforms, whether it's in the parliament, whether it's going to the Honorable President of India, which we did along with 14 other parties. So that's our right, that's our duty. Let's be very clear about this, and I don't see any logic behind this phrase politically motivated. Now, 4 judges of the Supreme Court, unprecedented, come and have a press conference. Cite this very case, this very bench. Mr. Nalin Kohli, would you say they were politically motivated? And if you want to say that, you're free to say that, but please say it now. Please say that these
I'll answer
4
that.
sitting judges of the
I'll
Supreme
answer that.
Court who came out expressing their doubts about this bench handling this case were being politically motivated. In fact, their doubts came true today.
Okay, quick response, Nalin Kohli. I have a last question to
I
Yogendra.
shall
Quick
answer
response,
this
Nalin Kohli.
because constantly this has come up the second time in the program,
Right.
referring to Justice Chalameshwar, Justice Gogoi, Justice Kurian Joseph and Justice Madan Lokur. The 4 of them, and I've said this again and again, I'll repeat it on this channel too. The Supreme Court is an institution of eminence, and every one of the judges who makes it here, he or she is an institution by himself or herself. Everyone. You don't become a Supreme Court judge if you're an ordinary person. There is some eminence or great jurisprudence in terms of what you can bring to the institution and what the institution does through you.
Supriya, can we please
With
come
regard
the
to
point,
it,
please?
the questions that they raised, and there is a debate on it, that, no, I'm coming to it. The questions that they raised on were on the administrative side. We've believed, and I believe personally also as an advocate, that this is best resolved by the judiciary, not by political parties, like Mr. Rahul Gandhi or some people from the left, all of them jumped in. Now on to the question of Justice Loya. At a press conference, where Ms. Indra Jaisingh happens to be no press person, at least not for the last 40-50 years that one has known that she's been in practice, she at the very end of the press conference asked the question to which there was yes. There was no great press conference on this issue. The issue was all on the administrative side. Ms. Indra Jaisingh, as probably the only lawyer in a press conference, asked this question, to which there was just one comment, I don't recall who, said yes, this could be one of the issues. There was no great discussion on it.
Okay.
So let's not look at it. That was the fact of the matter. It was on the administrative side, on the roster, seniority, juniority, other issues.
Okay, I take that point. Let's step back, Yogendra Yadav.
It was on the roster, and this case was cited, and it was quoted by the media for several days after that.
Yes,
you cannot run away from the fact that this was one of the important cases. I
take that point. Pawan Khera, Naran Kohli, I'm running out of time. I have a quick last question for Yogendra Yadav. Pawan Khera, Naran Kohli, please let me interrupt you. Yogendra Yadav, let's sort of keep the politics aside. For a moment, let's keep the politics aside. My last question to you, we can't lose sight of the fact that, like has been evidently pointed out by both the panelists, that the Loya case was also at the center of the rift within the judiciary. What does this order in some sense imply in the larger context of the fault lines in Indian judiciary that is out in the open, that has been debated, that has been talked about by everybody?
What my friend Nalin Kohli responded in this beautiful euphemism was simply this. Justice Gogoi had clearly said that we went to meet Justice Deepak Mishra to say this bench should not be hearing Loya's case. That's basically what was the case. 4 judges of the Supreme Court thought this bench should not be hearing this particular case. And then this bench gives a judgment which actually proves their worst fears. These have been very trying times for the Supreme Court for the last 4 years, towards the end of Justice Kehar's period and now. These are some of the most difficult times in the history of Indian judiciary. And as a citizen, forget Congress, BJP, they will come and go. But we need the Constitution. And in order to understand the Constitution, we need the Supreme Court. And I must say, the Supreme Court has not carved itself in glory in the last 2 years or so. We, as people who want to defend this republic, who have faith in the Constitution of this country, can we somehow restore the faith in the interpreter of the Constitution? Today that hope dimmed a bit. Okay. I'm sad, but in the last instance, I do not give up hope.
Okay, I do not give up hope. That's the view from Yogendra. Have you heard all sides on this heated political debate?
It wasn't this bench that Justice Gogoi referred to. It was another bench.
Okay. I take that point. I take that point. Naran Kohli, we're completely timed out on this edition of the India Development Debate. Can't thank this wonderful panel enough for that heated political debate, for bringing all sides of this debate to the public domain. The circumstances surrounding Justice Loya's death, and the Supreme Court now finally ruling that there is no basis for an independent probe. They've also made some very sharp observations on the nature of the PILs that were filed. I reckon the political controversy around it is not going to die anytime soon.
Indeed. On that note, completely out of time. Thanks very much for this wonderful panel, for being here and debating the politics and, of course, the very nature of the Loya death case. Up next is Top 10 at 10 with Tanya Bharadwaj.